Hey, what's up? Dilio coming to you with another keyboard review. This is my honest review of the Hydrasynth Explorer from Ashen Sound Machines. And in this video, I'm just going to basically talk about why I like it. Because honestly, I was sleeping on this synthesizer for a long time. And the first impression to me was, oh, okay, oh, it's cool. It's got a but it's got an oscilloscope on the screen, but there's so much more to that. So uh, take your time uh, and roll with me on this as I talk about why I think this keyboard is pretty dope, and I wish I had the deluxe version of this because the sound of this one is actually something that I haven't heard before with other digital synthesizers. Normally, when I look at digital synthesizers, I'm like, all right. And I'll also tell you about how I compare it to my other experiences with other synthesizers. So let's talk about what we see on the screen here, and I'm going to play some sounds with you that I made on here, some presets. When I first started the keyboard, I wasn't really too impressed with the presets. I like that color right there; it changes. So you got your arpeggiator section right here. You got chord, random, order of the keys that you press up, down. You got your range of octaves right here, right there in the front. I like that being there in the front. You can latch the notes down. So as you can see, as I hold the note down, it'll hold the note down right there. Filter controls, I like that. It's hard to really differentiate. I come from, of a different background where the Moog filter knob was always bigger than all the other knobs, but in this situation, same. You got your main systems here. Oscilloscope tells you what the preset is. I was a little frustrated by browsing presets because there's so many, but once I understood how to use the browse menu and go to the different patch banks. So it's kind of like a lot of hardware synthesizers. You got your bank and your presets. So in case of the Juno, you got 8 banks and then 8 presets per bank. But this is so much easier to browse your sounds on here than compared to other synthesizers as well. I like the initialize button right there. You got a random button. I'm afraid to push that. Shift, which is cool because shift applies to that. Initialize applies to this, that, and the other. I like having an initialize button right there. Typically with other keyboards, you got to kind of do a button combination. Like on the Juno X, you got to do a shift right. The DeepMind 12 has a certain shift configuration to initialize. Now, keep in mind that all those keyboards will have a way for you to go back and find them late in the banks where you can find initialized patches. But the fact that they have it right there in the front, so I don't want to know what you did with it. I want to dive into it myself. That's great. This is where things get interesting. So you got 3 oscillators, so that reminds me of the Model D or Massive from Native Instruments. 2 mutants. It took me some time to understand what the mutants are, but they let you do a lot of cool things to the oscillators right there. You got a mixer that mixes all these and noise as well, but I would have liked to kind of seen a noise option there. You got 2 filters. They can be in parallel or series, or you can tell different oscillators to go to different filters via the mixer. That's pretty cool. You got 5 envelopes. I was about to say 6, and 5 LFOs. So you have no shortage of LFOs. I think on the DeepMind 12, you got 2. On the Mainilog, you got 1. On the Juno X, you got 1. So typically, a lot of these LFOs I normally see on plugins. And Massive was sort of the entry drug for me to getting to this. You got your pre-effects. It's so much to it. And if you don't have the patience, like how I didn't, you don't really get to sink your teeth into how powerful all this is. And I've barely scratched the surface. And it's like, whoa, there's actually a lot of depth to this synthesizer than I realized, especially the way you can just route to things, which is why you got the mod matrix, kind of like how Arturis Micro Mini Freaks can do. They really route to different stuff. So that's cool. So let's go to the sounds. I think I've taken enough time to talk about the keyboard. So here's a preset I did. That's called the breathing bass. That's similar to my chemicals preset on Massive. There's another sound that I did on here. Now you got that touch strip. I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of touch strips. I mean, it's hard to freak it. It's hard to freak it, but the other keyboards have full size wheels on there. I'm not a fan of touch strips on there. This is one of my favorite sounds right here that I like to do. I made this one, but I add reverb to it. So I like that sound right there. It sounds simple by itself. When you add some effects to it, it sounds dope. I call this Ocean's Pad. So dope. When it's crazy because I didn't expect it to get it to sound so analog. I call that spandex bass. Mm. Now, the interesting thing that I like about this keyboard is that you can actually mess with the generation or the waveform. When you go into the voice section here, there's something that I really shocked me and impressed me about this keyboard that I wasn't expecting. Random phase. So, if I could compare my experience with other digital synthesizers, um, it's almost like every time you hit that note, it's like the same texture, right? It's the same phase of waveforms going on, especially when you mix them. So you hear the same. It almost sounds sampled. But what they've done on here is that they changed the way. It's almost like how a oscillator is always on. So the oscillator doesn't care when you play the note. So every time you play, you get a different flavor. And then when that bounces with other oscillators that are pitched slightly differently, like on an analog synthesizer, you get this flavor that you don't really get on a lot of digital synthesizers. Like there's no random phase on Massive. And I'm not sure 100% you can do that on Serum. But it doesn't sound like the same thing happening every time I press a note. Here's another sound. So that's Side of Her. Um, these are sounds that I made. I mean, you could do a whole lot. Like if I wanted to throw like a chorus on that, I can go ahead and go to the effects block right there, slap on chorus. And it's amazing because the oscilloscope really shows you what's going on there. it just sounds fat. It's just like, okay, okay, okay. That's me trying to get kind of like that Juno pad on here. This is where I try to do the. Now it's making this sound like my sub fatty. You can do it on here. It's very impressive, and it's interesting because the first filters that you can select. I haven't even dived into how many filters that are come built in this thing, but like if you select the first filter block, you can go from ladder filter 12 dB per octave or something like that to like 24. So you get this really creamy sounding Mogish filter. They really pulled it off. It sounds really good. It doesn't sound cold compared to like how I work with the filter with the mini log and the DeepMind. The only filter I've had comparable in my experience currently so far is probably the filter of the Juno. But the Juno, the Juno X is going to be modeled to the Juno to a T. But what I don't get out of the DeepMind 12 that I get out here is that low end fatness. Like it takes a lot to get. It just takes work. Like there's this weird thing on the DeepMind 12 where you lose that low end when you add chorus. Like say if you were trying to do a Juno sounding pad and you're trying to put that chorus on it, something happens to the low end where you lose it. And it's like I want that low end. I want it to be there so that I have a reason to use the high pass filter on it. Check out some more sound. Little sound I did there. Little bass sound I did there. Try to do that pony sound. That's a filter. It does the vowel sound. It's so much fun. It's a crazy sound I did. Where I was really messing with the LFOs. I was really messing with the LFOs because these LFOs can do their own thing to the own oscillator, to macros and all that stuff. Kind of got that Lil Jon sound thing I did. I just made this one tonight. What you heard right there is kind of like the Wave Stack. Wave Stack is their version of Supersaw. I mean, this video is already long already, but this just shows you how in depth to this keyboard. But in my initial thoughts of this keyboard is that it's actually a pretty dope keyboard. It don't look like much. I ain't gonna front to you. It didn't look like much to me visually. I mean, it's the black background, it's orange. They did their own thing with it, but the way it sounds, what they put into this to make it sound the way it does, is amazing. If you can get past how it looks, if you can get past sort of just here it is, and that there's a lot of information that comes in through these two screens, and I think that's good that that's there. Because if it didn't, ugh. But the fact that it does, it's cool. So don't let the look of it fool you. It's a new brand, right? Don't let the brand fool you. It's actually a pretty dope synthesizer. And if you were to ask me what synthesizer would I get, it would probably be this one. If I wanted a polyphonic synthesizer, and I wasn't hung up on it being digital because this is a fully digital board. Um, I feel like you get the most bang for your buck with this. Now I haven't tried a lot of the other Korg synthesizers. I'm sure they're powerful and sound great as well. But for some reason, this hits right in the pocket of what I need it to be, and it's very versatile. And you can make it as complex or as simple as you want it to be. It's a good sounding board. I'm not going to front you. It's actually a good sounding board. I was actually surprised once I got under the hood and I got into it and had fun with it. So we're definitely going to talk about more about this keyboard in the future. If you like this, let me know in the comments below. I'm Dilio. You're watching Dilio TDK, and that's my review of the Hydrasynth Explorer from Ashton Sound Machines. Hope I said that right. Peace out. We're gone.